this is an exclusive interview we bring to you here at News9. I am Sriya Kundu, and joining me today, and I cannot be less honored and excited at the same point, to introduce you to a woman who is right in front of me, and she's achieved history. And she's created history. It's a proud moment for all of us, all Indians out here. And yes, I'm speaking about the Miss Grand International 2024, Rachel Gupta. Thank you so much, Rachel, for giving us your time. And I'm sure you've heard this question time and again at this point, but I think you wouldn't mind reliving that moment when this crown was set on your head, and very rightfully so, very well deservedly so. Take us through that moment, and also the thoughts in your head, and how keen were you to, come back home to us and, meet us and be welcomed, with all of us being so excited about this victory.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today, Sriya. It's wonderful to speak to you. Yes, my journey has been incredible since winning the crown. That whole moment was magical and unforgettable. It's the kind of moment you remember for the rest of your life and relive over and over again. I've worked very, very hard to reach, even just to be at the competition. It takes years of work, and the competition itself is a month long. So for a month, every day, you're in a very high pressure situation, and it's incredibly stressful. But I remember that the day of the competition, the finale, I was elated. I was on another level of happiness and confidence, because at that point, the decision has been made, right? And you just kind of surrender to the process. And I remember speaking to my mom that morning, and I told her, I'm like, at this point, whether I win or lose, I have given everything I possibly could. Every fiber of my being has gone into winning this crown, and I will accept the result, whatever it is. But, of course, holding hands with my top two partner and hearing India was the most incredible feeling.
Absolutely.
All I've ever wanted is for India to shine on an international platform. All I've ever wanted is to represent our country, our culture, our values, and to see that come true for the first time in so long, to win this crown for our country, feels like an immense honor and a huge responsibility that I'm so excited to take forward for the next year.
Something very interesting about the Grand International pageant is the fact that it's out there to advocate peace and to stop wars, and it's an extremely important subject in 2024, when we see certain major battlefronts and war fronts developing in different parts of the world, right? Firstly, how different is this very pageant? Because when I was also going through this very pageant and the criteria that matters in this very pageant, I've never seen business and entrepreneur come up as a subject matter or even as a criterion in a pageant. That makes it extremely interesting.
So Miss Grand International is the world's #1 pageant. It is truly the premier beauty pageant in the world because of how different it is. Although it's only 13 years old, which is very new compared to some of the other pageants that have been running for decades, but it has completely redefined what it means to be a beauty queen through its criteria. So of course we have the advocacy, which is to stop the war and violence, which is incredibly important to the MGI brand. And we speak about it a lot on stage as well. My final answer, you talk about war and violence because that's your advocacy, is to focus on peace all around the world. And we are living in a time when there is so much turmoil and so much war happening in different parts of the world. So it's really important to be aware of that and to give the focus where it matters. It's easy to get caught up in all the glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry, but we have to remember that when we're given a platform and people are listening to our voices, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. and you have to use your voice for the greater good to help the people who need it, who will actually benefit from it. Miss Grand International does this by making sure to pick a winner who can advocate for their social causes. And their criteria is really unique, actually. They focus on the 4 Bs, which are body, beauty, brain, and business, to be the winner. And yes, business is a very new criteria for a beauty pageant to focus on, but it's what immediately drew me to this pageant. Because the idea of being recognized for the brand value you bring is really important, you know. In today's world, especially in the entertainment industry, everything is about your brand value and the brand value that India brings. So that's what I really wanted to showcase, is the Indian power, the strength of our culture, our community, and how we can showcase a brand like MGI and its advocacy all throughout the world. And I'm really grateful that they were able to recognize the strength of India this year, because you have to make sure every single criteria is perfect. You know, there's women from 75 countries competing for this crown, and they're all the best of the best in their countries. So it's very tough competition, and every single little detail needs to be perfect.
Absolutely.
And for all the women who are going to come after me, who are going to try and figure out what their 4 Bs are and how they can best advocate themselves, I think they're very lucky to come from a country like India, because we have so much abundance here of business opportunities to showcase in this kind of a competition. And of course, our women are so beautiful and intelligent all throughout the country. So I think we're just naturally made to excel at this competition.
Absolutely. You know, speaking of Indian culture, I would want to bring this up here. It's the costume of yours that made ripples in social media. Like, netizens were going crazy and gaga over that regal gown that you wore for the national costume event that we'd all seen. It, if I'm not wrong, it represents River Ganga.
Yes, yes.
But what was the inspiration behind it? Why River Ganga?
I come from Punjab, and literally the land of the 5 rivers. I know the importance of a river and just the value of water. It's such a simple thing, but it's like the value of water. And in India, we worship the river Ganga so much. It's a holy river. It is so important to our culture, and yet it is in a really bad condition. A river that we worship, we cannot seem to respect as a nation. And so I really wanted to, with all my outfits actually, not only showcase Indian culture, but also shed light on an issue that I think is important. So in the description of my costume, we spoke about the importance of keeping the river Ganga clean.
Right.
Like, if it is a holy river and we worship it, we can at least try to keep it clean. It's so important. It provides water to so many people in our country, and it's such a landmark of our country. Everybody knows it, and we need to do better to take care of it, to take care of the abundance of natural resources we have in India, because they're finite. And even in my final answer,
you'd said the
I
same.
spoke about the issue of overpopulation in India. We have too many people who aren't getting enough resources here. And that's an issue that I really think more people need to focus on, instead of focusing on the war and violence in the world and creating more issues between ourselves and dividing people. We need to focus on actually providing resources for the people we have and taking care of them. With such a large population and so many people living below the poverty line, it's unacceptable, especially in a country which is so progressive and developing every single day. We need to take care of these issues, and that's what I wanted to highlight with my River Ganga costume.
Absolutely. I think it's a wake-up call as well, and it's a very important point that needs to be highlighted at this particular point of time. Very well said at this point, I would say. You know, I will bring up another sensitive matter when we speak about beauty pageants. In today's time, especially with all the influencers around, I would again bring that in our conversation. We've also seen a lot of what we call woke elements in society, and we see a fair amount of people come out and comment on beauty pageants, calling it conventional. And they come up to speak about what they call unconventional beauty. And then there are topics about, you know, color, or for that matter, body type. There are different such subjects. In fact, even big brands nowadays have started bringing these matters up into their advertisements or building their brands around such subjects. At such a time, it becomes very sensitive. A beauty pageant also becomes a very sensitive matter to speak upon. What would you have to say to that section of the society? Coming from a place at this point where you hold a certain level of responsibility, holding the title, wearing the crown and being the queen yourself, what would you have to say to them?
I think this is a wonderful question because to people who question the relevance of beauty pageants, I would like to point out that we had 75 girls in this competition, each from a different country, each with a completely different look. There isn't a single standard of beauty that came into the competition. Women of different sizes, backgrounds, ethnicities, skin colors, all of them were here representing their country. And if the competition were simply about making the most beautiful girl win, it would be impossible to pick a winner. That's why we focus on issues like war and violence and what we want to change in our countries, and that's why we focus on the Q&A and interview rounds so much, because it really is about the value that a contestant brings, and it really is about your plan for using your platform to better your country and to promote this diversity and inclusivity all over. If you look at the past Miss Grand India winners or any of the winners from any of the countries, they're all very different women. There isn't one standard or one look that comes into it. When we have a stage full of such diversity, I think it's incredibly beautiful and powerful. There's women from all backgrounds with all different careers, and we come together to share our cultures and to hopefully be the one to spread the message of our country and to share our advocacy for the next 1 year. It really is about more than your external beauty. If it were simply about your looks, how would they pick a winner? Every single woman is beautiful in a different way, but it's about what more you bring to the table. And for me personally, I have always seen beauty as a very internal thing. Beauty is felt with your eyes closed, and it's felt through the energy of a person, through their heart, through their soul. And I think that really plays a very big part in this competition, because we're judged for almost 1 month on how we behave with others. It's not just how you look in a gown on stage. We're judged on how we behave with others, how we interact with sponsors, with other contestants, you know, how we answer questions during the interview round, and all of that. It's a really holistic approach to finding the woman who is ready to represent her country and to represent brands, sponsors all over the world. And it's not easy to be the winner. I think it's very unfair for people who say the winner is chosen solely on beauty. Look at the past winners of Miss Grand International. They're all different countries, different beauties, different looks, different messages of war and violence and different advocacies. So it's important to remember the true purpose and the true value that a woman brings to this contest.
Absolutely. I think that's extremely important, a message for people out there with regards to understanding pageants and the relevance of pageants in 2024. And, you know, I would want to, I mean, this conversation, I could go on forever and ever at this point, but I would want to wrap this conversation with an anecdote from your life. You're 20-year-old now. Imagine an 18-year-old out there watching you. Give us probably one memory you have from your journey, which, you know, I wouldn't just say made you doubt, but also it was a turnaround moment for you. Like at that point, you were not very sure whether, you know, you would want to go ahead on this path. Would you want to take up modeling as a career? Would you want to appear for a pageant? But then something happened, and that gave you hope and that motivation and that grit to just see it through and definitely make us proud. That one moment in your life.
Okay, well, there isn't one moment when I doubted myself. there have been thousands. And it's normal. I'm human, we're all humans. We doubt ourselves because we can't see the future and we don't know if our dreams are going to come true. And it's really scary to put yourself out there and to chase an ideal, to chase your dreams, to fight for what you want, not knowing what the result is going to be. It's really scary. It takes a lot of courage and bravery to be able to put yourself out there like that. But a moment that was very significant to my journey was on my 18th birthday. My parents woke me up at 12 a.m. They knew this was my dream and it was going to be my focus for the next year. My birthday is in January, so I kind of yes, it's coming, and
yeah.
I kind of use that day to reflect on what I want for the upcoming year. And I really wanted to make my dream come true, So at 12 a.m. on my birthday, they brought this little plastic crown and they did like a fake. It wasn't fake, it was very real, but they did a crowning ceremony.
Make-believe one, yes.
They crowned me with a little plastic crown that was from some toy shop, and it was really sweet. It was amazing. I cut the cake. They left my room and I was gonna go to sleep, and I remember sitting with that plastic crown on my head, and I knew that no matter what happens, I have to have the real thing on my head. I knew that this was like a sign from God, and I knew that if I stay true to myself and I take my values forward every single day and I stay humble and grounded, I knew that the crown on my head would one day be different. And I will never forget that. It's a tiny moment. It's a little plastic crown that probably has no
it
real
holds
value.
a lot of value.
But it has a lot of significance.
Significance and value for sure.